Alcohol inks can make some really beautiful ornaments, and there are some tips and tricks to make the process flow and go a little smoother for you. So today I'm going to show you from setup all the way to varnish and finishing how to make some beautiful ornaments with alcohol inks. Let's go. First you'll want to pick your ornament. Alcohol inks work on any slick surface, so glass, plastic, white, or even metallic colors will work great for this project. Remember, you want something bright and light for those colors to reflect upon. If you have clear ornaments, whether they're glass or plastic, we need to make them white first. I'm going to be using Jacquard's Piñata Colors today, and their Blanco is perfect for this. I'm going to apply a good squirt on the inside and roll the ink around. If it doesn't flow and cover quickly, I'm going to add more. If I have extra ink, I'm not worried about wasting it here. I'm just going to put it into the next ornament that I want to coat with white. Alcohol inks are dye-based, with some exceptions. There are no white dyes, so they've had to use a pigment here. And in this case, we need to make sure that we shake it up. So don't forget to shake up your white before doing this. And when we get to metallics, you'll need to shake those up too. The vibrancy of alcohol inks is due to light passing through these transparent colors and reflecting off of a surface. So if my surface is clear or a dark color, the colors are not going to be bright. Once the inside of these are coated, they're going to need some time to dry, a few hours at least. You can put them on a stick so that the ink flows out and drips freely. I like this method because it gives the most airflow back in and speeds up the drying process. You can also put them upside down in the carton that they came in or in a cup. Some people like to use acrylic for this. I do not recommend. This takes at least twice as long, 5+ hours, maybe even overnight, and you'll probably have to do a second coat. Nobody wants that. These are ornaments I did with the alcohol ink. They're both one coat. One is a little more transparent than the other, but ultimately will work, and the other one is just fine. There is a spot where it was a little heavier and it didn't drain completely out, so there is a more white area. Again, this isn't going to really affect our ultimate design. Now it's time to clean the ornaments. Use your 91% isopropyl alcohol, the same thing that you use with your alcohol inks. This is perfect for cleaning them before we start putting color on. Now that we're ready to apply color, let's take a look at some do's and don'ts. When you're starting on the ornament, pick the colors that you're going to use and go ahead and open those lids. They're tough, most especially once you're holding an ornament. Don't add too much ink right off the bat. This is far too much for a first layer. Add just a little bit at a time, let it dry, and work in layers. Don't skip cleaning your ornaments. No matter which one you chose, you need to clean it first. Otherwise, you risk this happening. Here you can see the ink is actually avoiding some areas. Oils from your hands and other particles from dust and whatnot get on these ornaments and they can actually repel the ink. Once you're at the point of applying the ink and you find a spot like that, it's very difficult to fix. Not impossible though. We'll cover that. Use 91% isopropyl alcohol to lighten or reactivate your colors. I like to put them in these little plastic bottles. They're very convenient for adding a little extra movement when you need it. Another way to lighten an area is to add white. When dropped on top of a color that is still wet or at least a little sticky, the white does a beautiful job at lightening it and adding this milky look to it. Keep a straight pen and a pair of pliers handy. You'll need the pen to unclog some of the metallics and white. Occasionally those pigments just get stuck. And the pliers, well, sometimes those caps get glued on and you'll need the pliers to get the cap off. Sometimes spaces need encouragement to fill in. You're going to need to use a brush, Q-tip, or your finger. You've got gloves on. And keep lots handy because this can get messy fast. But using your finger to kind of massage the color around on a spot helps the coverage happen more easily. However, if this is one of those spots that's repelling color, that might not even work in this case. But there's another thing we can do. Time to shine. Once this is completely dry, let's add some metallics. The gold and the brass have the largest pigment size and are the best for coverage. These will actually cover over the spots that repel other inks. Now that we've looked at quite a few things not to do, let's take a look at some paint application techniques that have great results. It's helpful to limit your palette and start with a base color. So here, I have a lot of extra color that fell off from the ornament that I used way too much ink on. So I'm going to use it as a base color for my next ornament. This is creating a wash of color, like I show in my alcohol inks and how to use it. You can achieve this other ways by adding ink, wiping it with a paper towel, or even a sponge brush. The sponge brush is great because if it starts to run out, you simply put a drop of ink right back on to the brush. If you want things lighter, use alcohol instead. After covering this ornament in color, I then added alcohol and just dabbed around the ornament to lighten some areas and create a pattern. Remember, these beautiful ornaments will probably be hanging on a tree, so we want lots of light areas. Having nice values that are light will make them pop out of the dark background of a tree. Of course, metallics will do that as well, and those are best added at the end. Another way to add a nice quick base layer that has variations in value is to add color to a plastic wrap and then cover your ornament in it. Squish it around for full coverage. Then you can open it back up, add some drops of a darker color, and then close it again. This time, you'll leave it for a little while, anywhere between a few minutes and a half hour. The sooner you pull the plastic off, the softer the lines. The longer you leave it, the more crisp and pronounced the texture will be left behind. Not all ornaments need color everywhere. Minimalist can be quite beautiful with these. Here I'm starting with a plastic ornament, and I've cut a sponge brush into a wedge so that I can use it as a handle. This will make it easier for me to spin this as I'm working it. Adding color to the center, not overdoing it. Less is more here. Just a little alcohol to get things moving, and then add some air to blow things around. Keep things simple with these. Adding 1 or 2 colors and a little bit of a metallic on top goes a long way. It doesn't take much airflow to really move these inks, so you don't need a big blast, just a little puff. Canned air or a handheld bulb are both great ways to move the inks. If you use canned air, I suggest getting 2 cans so you can set one aside if it gets too cold and work with the other one. That way you don't have to wait until you add your next layer of ink. You can use the canned air for full coverage ornaments too. It's a great way to move the ink around. Once you have some ornaments you like, it's time to varnish. Here I'm going to be using Piñata High Gloss Varnish. This is from Jacquard Products, the same company that makes the inks that we're using today. This brush-on varnish is fantastic. It does not re-wet or move the ink. Most varnishes will, but this one is made for alcohol inks. This means I can brush it onto my ornaments, let them dry, and they will be protected from here on out. Alcohol ink will flake off of surfaces, so it's important to put some form of a sealer on. Camar varnish, if you want to spray, would be a good option, but I don't like spraying any type of varnish in my studio, so a brush-on is absolutely perfect for me. This brush-on varnish dries quick, goes on easy, and could not be more perfect. And that's it. Hopefully I gave you some good tips and tricks to take to your own ornament making. Hit the like button if I did, and I'll see you next time on Art Men with Lynn.